Well, here we are then for another race at Monza. This time it's in the ORL League on PC, of course, this past Sunday gone by, a couple of days ago. And if you guys didn't know, then on Thursday last week, I raced here in PSGL. So 2 races in a row around the same track in different leagues, which is something that doesn't happen every day, but definitely a good thing for me because Thursday's race, which I'll leave linked up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, it was a tough one. I started P19, I'd done no practice, and I was pretty much trying to scrape some points, and to be fair, it was a decent race. Now for this one, I was a bit more practiced, let's say, a bit more on the pace. I wasn't perfect, but still pretty decent, as we invalidate our first qualifying attempt. We then move on to my second time up in qualifying. Now in the first sector, I was terrible. I dropped about 3 tenths on my previous lap on the invalidation, and I managed to somehow go slower on my second attempt, but then through the 4 or 5 chicane, I managed to gain about a tenth. I found more time through the Lesmos as well, and then I started to kind of find that confidence and hook up the lap. Now to be fair, the second sector was really good. I was really happy with this. I hooked it up quite nicely, and we're about 2 tenths up currently on my previous invalidated lap. We then head into Ascari, and here you'll see I just get a bit of a snap of momentum there midway through the right-hander, and it cost me about a tenth. I just lost the momentum and the rear end slipped out mid-corner. I had to get out the throttle slightly and I just lost that momentum. So we dropped a bit of time through there. But then through Parabolica we find quite a bit of time actually, and we're going to improve or set a lap that's more or less about 2 tenths quicker than the previous invalidation, and it's going to be a 1 minute 18 flat. Now that's not too shabby. We move on to the final lap in qualifying, and this is it then. So we're currently P20. The frames are a bit poor. I do apologise for that, by the way. It's only in qualifying. The FPS is a bit choppy. For the race, it seems to pick back up. So not sure what happened on my stream on Sunday, but nonetheless, let's go for a full lap of Monza now. Turn 1, you want to brake at the 100 meter board, down to 3rd gear, and then down to 2nd as you hit your apex. You want to make sure you kind of really sacrifice turn 1, open up the left by, you know, going really tight through the right hander of turn 1. That's going to give you a nice momentum boost out of there. As you can see, 2.5 tenths up. Really good first sector from us, much better than before. And we now head into turn 4 and 5. 4th gear corner, a little bit conservative on corner entry. The braking, I didn't really brake that late, but we didn't really lose or gain anything through there. Into Lesmo 1, 5th gear, going for a bit of an early apex, quite aggressive, finding a little bit more time through there. Lesmo 2 didn't quite get down to the apex there, and also didn't really get the traction or the exit speed right. So in the end, sector 2 is pretty much equal to the previous lap. We now head into Ascari, and of course last time we made an error. This time making it absolutely perfectly there, carrying the momentum and the speed in 6th gear absolutely perfectly, and we're going to be pretty much north of, you know, nearly 4 tenths up as we head into the Parabolica. And this is where you can make or break your lap, you know, throw it away or make it great. And we actually hit a pretty, let's say, decent Parabolica. It wasn't my best one, but it definitely weren't my worst. I found a little bit more time. We crossed the line, we improved by pretty much 4 tenths, and we finished qualifying in P12. So to be fair, a decent session, decent pace, and only 3.5 tenths off pole, which is pretty good for me, and one of my better qualifyings in the dry. Is, I think, worth noting, the lap in itself was one of my stronger laps. My best lap in time trial was the mid-5, so I probably could have got P11, I think. I do think P10 was a bit out of reach. I think Tomek was a bit too far, a bit too quick for me. And also worth noting the gaps from P1 to P9 covered by a 10th of a second, by the way. An absolutely ridiculously competitive qualifying session here today. But there you go, P12 for us. My teammate Nicolas Longue is in P2 on the front row. And the big surprise was Jona Otmir in P4, which is, I believe, the first time this season that's happened to him. So, yeah, there you go. There's your lot for qualifying. We're now going to move into the race, and we're going to see how things go for the second race in 4 days around Monza. Now here we are then at the end of the formation lap, and as you can see, we're starting on mediums, just like everyone else around us who qualified outside the top 10. And pretty much we're going to try and go for the alternate strategy. It worked really well for us the other day in PSGL, and we're going to try and do it again here today in ORL. So here we go. The lights are coming on for the Italian Grand Prix. Trying to find that sweet spot with the RPM, and it's going to be lights out and away we go. Now the first phase of the start was great. The second phase, not so good. I picked up a lot of wheel spin, and we get absolutely swamped at the start as multiple cars get past, and we drop the P15 into turn 1. We get a bit of wing damage. I get sandwiched. I believe it was like 4 wide. Bit of contact there with a Haas, and we've got wing damage on lap 1, which is not ideal. Pretty much it's going to hurt us. Luckily, someone goes off. I think that might have been Benzabo Konyi, and that incident right there is going to trigger a early safety car in this race, which is very fortunate for me. Also, Nicolas Longuet there caught up in an incident in the other Red Bull. But crucially, that safety car is going to get us out of trouble, which is really, really good for us. So we can go into the pits and serve a repair for the front wing and try and get back out there. Now, at the end of lap 1, I can see Longuet has to pit, and also he's got a 5-second time penalty, so he's probably going to serve that in the pits. So I decided to stay out and not pit on lap 1. The reason for that is because I'm going to have to sit behind Nicolas Longuet, you know, for an extra 5 seconds. We're probably going to get held because of the Red Bull pit box, and also I've got to get a wing change. So it would have been a really slow stop. So I'm going to pit on the next lap instead, and we're going to get a free pit lane, free pit box, no dramas, and just get a wing change basically. Now everyone in this race has gone onto the hard tyres except for the top 5. We've got 2 people on soft tyres and another 3 on mediums, and then obviously everybody else on the hard compound tyres. You can see here we're currently P19. We've got Benzabo Konyi making his way down towards the Parabolica, and I think he's coming by now actually on the pit straight, so he's going to be pretty close to us as we rejoin here, but I think he will just get out ahead of us. Unfortunately, I just didn't quite, you know, have a strong enough in lap. I think I could have pushed the pit entry a bit more, but it would have been hard to, you know, rejoin ahead of Benz. Either way, we're now last and P20. Now, what I did was actually a bit of an interesting one. I had a discussion with my engineer, and we were talking about tyres, because I was debating going for a soft tyre strategy because I saved a set of soft tyres in qualifying, but in the end we went for the hard tyres, and we're going to try and go to the end. It's going to be the big challenge this race. Who can make it 24, let's say 25 laps on the hard tyres, and you know, who can survive here today. So the good thing about being last and at the back, similar to PSGL the other day, is that you can just kind of chill and save tyres. You don't have to push. You can save fuel, you can save ERS, and at the same time kind of get used to the balance of the car. Now, lap 7, you can see Benzabo Konyi has got off to a great restart. He's got past Get Owned and Flores Vias, and also Flores has a 3-second time penalty. We pick up our first warning for track limits through turn 5, and at the minute we're just kind of chilling, to be honest. There's nowhere we can go. The DRS train is in full effect, and making any kind of difference in terms of straight line speed is next to impossible. So I'd rather just sit behind, try to burn some fuel, which by the way, I'm really heavy. I saved a bit too much under safety car. I should have burned some more fuel, because literally it's impossible to burn fuel in a DRS train because the engine overheats, so you can't run rich mix. But I tried to do my best, you know, fuel burning and just sitting behind the traffic here and just keeping my ERS charged up, because the race will open up. And lap 10, you'll see now Alvaro Carreton and also Alessio Di Capua are going to pit and get rid of their soft tyres, switch to the mediums, and they're going to rejoin behind us. And this is where the race started to open up a little bit. So now out front, we've got 3 more cars leading on the medium tyres. You can see ahead that the DRS train has kind of broken a little bit. It's not the entire grid anymore. We've got kind of a leading train and then a secondary train, which I'm in. And at the front of it is Patrick Cruti for Mercedes. Now we move on to lap 14, just over half race distance. And you can see now Carreton, who rejoined, and he was about 8.5 seconds behind me. He's now at 4.9. He's starting to close in. Of course, those mediums are a lot quicker, and we're trying to manage tyres still. But it was around this point of the race where I started to push. So we've done our tyre saving. It's going to be very, very marginal. We have to be careful, but it is now time to start to push. Now, we've got Flores Vias, who's going to pit, and he's got a few time penalties, and I believe he might retire from the race. So we're now up to P16. Dario Iemulo in the pit lane as well. He is in. I believe he started on mediums and is switching to the soft tyres. So 16th place. I think we've got 2 more people out front on mediums who should be pitting, and that will leave us in a net P14. Now, lap 16, you can see behind Carreton still closing in, 3.2 drift, and then Di Capua trying to follow him as they close up to us. You can see here now, lap 16, there's a bit of a separation. Now, the DRS train has kind of fallen apart, and you can see we've got Hoglar in the pit lane in there as well, and we're going to be P15. And you can see Get Owned making a move on Benzabo Konyi. Now, of course, I'm guessing Benz on the restart, he was ahead of us. He made a couple of moves. My guess is that he drained his ERS and now he was kind of running a bit low. I believe, according to my engineer, he had wing damage, and he was struggling for some pace. It looked okay to me, but apparently he had wing damage. And at the end of this lap now, lap 17, to kind of confirm that, Benz is actually going to pit. Now, I can't tell if it's because of wing damage or because, like a lot of the other cars who are pitting right now, like Carl Mitchell, for example, maybe people aren't going to make it in terms of tyre wear because it's very close, and it was already... You could already tell on lap 18 whether you were going to make it or not. So we're now currently P12. We've got Fabrizio Donoso up ahead. He's got a 3-second time penalty. So we are within range to hopefully benefit from that. Obviously, we skip on to lap 18 and we have dropped a little bit further away from Fabrizio. But now you can see Get Owned does not have DRS on anybody. And this is now the moment to strike. We've got loads of DRS, loads of fuel, and now we've got some clean air. And I have to make this move because Garaton behind is closing in, and I don't want to fall into a battle with him right now. I'd rather, you know, feed Get Owned into that, and this will allow me to kind of stay ahead for a bit longer and pull away from Garaton for a little bit. So you can see now, lap 19 onto lap 20, the final laps of the race now. Another personal best. We've got a couple of cars in the pit lane now. We're now up into the points. Meanwhile, Garaton going for a move here on Get Owned into turn 1. We're going to brake at our usual point into turn 1, aggressive over the curbs, and we're going to stay ahead. But Garaton makes the move, and he's now behind us. So pretty much, I knew he was going to overtake me, but I had good pace. I was really fast on the hard tyres. I made some setup adjustments compared to Thursday's race, and I had a really good, car, good balance on these hard tyres. I felt confident, and I had really good pace. So I'm actually going to let Garaton go by because he's faster than me anyway. But I'm going to try my hardest to hang on and follow him, because if he can drag me, he's going to bring us closer to that leading kind of DRS train pack that kind of broke away earlier on, and we could potentially score some points here today. So we're going to just follow Arado basically. You can see Shazoo Felipe up ahead. He's 4.2 seconds up the road, but does have a 3-second time penalty. So we might be able to claw that back if we just follow Arado for the foreseeable future. Now, I spoke to Arado after on Twitter. He was kind of just trying to manage his DRS. It wasn't going as fast as possible. You can see my tyre wear as we're into the high 60s. It's getting pretty close. Of course, as you guys know, you can get a puncture from 75% onwards, but you usually get them from 80% onwards. 80% is the danger zone. And you can see lap 24, if we just go through the Lesmos now, we are going to get a yellow flag, and it's Nicolas Longue, my teammate, on lap 24. He has a left rear puncture, and that is the tyre that's going to go around Monza first. And Nicolas missed out by 3.5 laps, which is incredible. So I believe he got spun as well, but either way, he was nowhere near making it and got a puncture quite early on. You can see in the bottom right, my tyre indicator is going orange. We're currently P10. We've got Ian Mulo behind us, and he's battling with Get Owned, so we haven't got to worry about that. And now Tomek Paradzic, or Hypers, in the McLaren has a left rear puncture as well, and we're now up to P9. And to my surprise, something I've never seen before, Tomek got a puncture with 76% left rear, which is unheard of. So extremely unfortunate for Tomek. And I'm on 73% right now with 2 more laps to go. So we are going to be really, really close. We're going to need a little bit of luck to not get a puncture as we go on to lap 26. You can see here Garaton was about 7 tenths ahead of us, but then through here I'm starting to lose the tyres, and you can see he pulls about 4 tenths on me, and he's also going full push now, using all of his ERS and all of his tyres. And pretty much this was the moment where he dropped me out of DRS range, which is a bit frustrating because it was so important for me to stick with him, but I just wasn't able to anymore. You know, if I could have stuck with Albado, it could have really helped us out in terms of gaining track position. Lap 27 though now, you can see the wiggling ahead. Felipe is the next car to get a left rear puncture, make that 3 now in this race, and I'm going to have to go the long way around here to get past, losing a little bit of time, but we're now up into P8. We've got Patrick Cruty up ahead. I believe he's got literally no ERS left, so I'm going to try and chase after him, but realistically, my left rear is finished. You know, we had to manage it on this last lap. I dropped off the pace completely. I missed out on more positions ahead of us, you know, due to penalties, but I just wanted to make sure I made it. You know, sometimes you need to weigh up the risks. We finished P7. We had Liam Parnell and Haddad with time penalties up the road, and we finished literally 1 second away. But unfortunately, like I was saying, sometimes you have to weigh up the risk versus reward, and for me, I wanted to score some points today, so I did not push on that last lap whatsoever. I easily lost 1.5 to 2 seconds. I just had to cruise to not lose the rear tyres because I was going to have a puncture if I'm not careful. And you know, that meant staying off all the curbs, short shifting, just not sliding, taking it very smooth. And in the end, we get some points. We finish in P7. We actually benefit from Josh having a 5-second penalty. And I'm going to take that. Some big points once again. After being P20 after that incident on lap 1, we finish P7, and a very similar race in many ways to PSGL, but unlike the last one, which was, you know, all about penalties and kind of tyre performance, this one was all about surviving and making sure you didn't get a puncture. Jan Altmaier picks up the win. Carreton finishes P2 in the end, of course, benefiting from penalties and fresher tyres. Jake Benham, or ex-Jakey B, I believe, P3. Kruti, Haddad, Parnell, myself in P7. Ardabu, Hoglar, and Get Owned round out the top 10. And missing out the points are Leslie Capua, which was quite surprising, along with Iamulo and Benzabo Konya and so on. But there you go. That is going to be it for today's video, guys, and the race in ORL. An absolutely crazy one. Very much drive to survive, if you will. If you guys enjoyed the video, slap a like on it. Let's try and hit 800 likes on this video. Subscribe for more daily F1 content, guys, as we're on the way to 60,000 subs, which is incredible. And thank you, as always, to the members of the channel for supporting the content. I really, really appreciate it. If you have missed them, then there's 2 videos on screen right now. Go check them out. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you guys next time for some more league racing content. Until then, take care. And it's goodbye from me.